Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to April's edition of CPR Q&A, live Q&A for CPR instructors. Hey, listen, my name is Kirk Mote, founder of Rescue Site, and you are on with the one and only Tim Smith with Heart Cert. Tim, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Kirk. How about you?
Doing awesome, man. So you're coming from where? Where are you in the world today?
Oh, the balmy, warm, sunny, or the exact opposite of that in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Grove, Minnesota. Yes, sir. It is about 30 degrees today.
Woo! 30 degrees, man. So, it's not too bad here in Atlanta, Georgia. Let me just give you an exact set. 65 degrees. So, not too bad. I got my hoodie on. I'm in the studio today, so that's all good. So, what's new with you? Anything new and exciting?
There's always stuff going on. The new thing, I think you and I, right before we went live here, we're talking AHA or World Point just to made some big announcements. So that's kind of the main thing going on.
Yeah. So today we have a lot of great questions for you. So if you are a CPR instructor and you got questions, you're in the right place. Topics we're going to be covering will include anything from, capability statements, virtual training, hiring, growth, help, and everywhere in between. So yeah, let's just kick it off with, that first question. What the heck is going on with virtual? I thought we weren't allowed to do that anymore.
Right. Yeah, and there's been I hear a lot of rumblings and see a lot of comments and hear people. So virtual training was never really gone, so to speak, even though and COVID isn't gone, but um, you know, you can do virtual training, but that word, I think the word virtual is what throws everybody off and into a tizzy, and it's kind of polarizing in the industry. So virtual doesn't necessarily mean 100% online at your computer. What it's really, it's meant to be more like blended learning, and then the hands-on is in a more virtual atmosphere, but still with a live instructor. So AHA, I think it was literally, was it yesterday? But they
Yeah.
very, very recently came out and said, and I think their verbiage was virtual training is here to stay.
Okay.
And now World Point has kind of hopped on along with them and says, here are some solutions to be able to continue to offer this. So there are standards still. There are right ways to do this, wrong ways to do it, right ways people have been doing it, and wrong. And it's kind of good to understand all that.
It's interesting because I'm on the CPR forums. I'm listening to the discussions as you are, and there's a lot of opinions when it comes to virtual, right?
Yep.
And so, there's a solution for everyone out there as far as, hey, I might not be able to do a full in person, or maybe I can't spend all my time, during working hours. And so, hey, maybe I'll watch the videos on my own time after hours. So there's all kinds of options out there. For the person who's a little skeptical, saying, hey, you know what? There's only one way to do that. That's in person. Like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to say to that person, and in no way, shape, or form would I ever want to or mean to, with anything I'm saying today, minimize in-class, in-person training, because
100%.
I, as many other instructors, if not all, would agree that there is definitely something to be said for having a live person there the entire time, right? Really giving you that meat.
You can't beat that. You really can't.
You can't. I agree with that, but there's right ways and wrong ways to do that too. There are instructors
Yes.
who do not follow the curriculum, who do not, right? And so there's all this stuff. And it started with in-person training and then blended learning. Blended learning has been here a long time. I would have to look back at how long it's been, but it's been a while. And there was a big ruckus when that started. Like, oh my goodness, I can't, this is not good. This is not the same. It's kind of adapt or die. And like you said at the beginning, there are solutions for everybody. The blended learning is not meant for everyone. In-person training, 100% classroom, I would argue, is not for everyone as well.
Sure.
We all learn different ways. We're all in different situations. People have different levels of, experience as well. So I think this is just another option, and I think options are good. I don't think people should be worried, scared. If you do it the right way, it's only going to open the door for more customers. I mean, we're all in this for the same reason, I think, and that's to get more people trained. This is
Yeah.
an avenue to do that, just like blended learning was an avenue to do that.
And I love that point, because I was literally about to say, hey, my vision is to create a world where no one dies from sudden cardiac arrest. And if we can get CPR training, even if it's not to the full extent, or in your opinion of like that perfect way to learn, right? If we can get one more person to learn and feel confident in their ability to properly respond in an emergency situation, then that's meeting the goal. And
That's
so, yeah, I mean, like I'll do virtual all day long if I can get more people to have the knowledge and the confidence to properly respond. So, I mean, yeah, there's pros and cons to both. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, and I mean, when AHA says it, it comes out from World Point and everything. It's here to stay. I mean, it's been here for a couple of years, and I believe them that, hey, if you're one of those who says, well, I'm not going to adapt and I'm not going to use this, then I think, at least from a business aspect and the ability to, fully encompass all of your potential for different clients and making a difference, you're going to be left behind a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that we hear a lot of times is, "Hey, Kirk, what's the best way to grow your business?" And the best way, in my opinion, humble but accurate opinion, is, and I'm sure you'd agree, is this adding more products and services to your product and services suite. And what better way to do that than to offer virtual and offer products for sale? Because when you're just so like, hey, I'm only doing AHA, or I'm only doing ARC, or I'm only doing, whatever, and I'm cutting everything out, you're putting yourself in a box. Because we have clients, and I'm sure you have clients that are like, hey, we really want this particular defibrillator because this is the one that we've been using forever and ever and ever. Cool. If I only sold, another brand of defibrillator and try to switch them over, guess what? I just lost that amazing client. Same thing with training.
Same thing with everything. You're absolutely right. You said it right before we went on the air. So you're doing a little bit of like real estate and some other stuff going on in your life. And what you told me, you can't just fall in love and just look at this one, right? You've got to have same thing with any kind of business. You're absolutely right.
And, honestly, and the reason why we started doing this too is, collaboration is the new currency. I believe that working together for a focused cause, you're going to create, so much more traction, so much more, results, better results and faster results. In my opinion, if you work together as a team, as a group, as an industry, towards one common cause, creating a world where no one dies from sudden cardiac arrest. So I love doing stuff like this with people like you, Tim, because you're in it to win it. You're all about this cause, and I love it.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's kind of the all ships rise kind of, there's a million different sayings for it.
I love it.
Yeah. Where else you want to go with this? You want to stick with that?
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about the virtual? Can you kind of help walk me through, like, hey, I think everyone on the call as a CPR instructor understands how the flow of a in-person live class works, but can you kind of talk about maybe the process of a virtual?
Yeah, I can. And actually, I've got a fair amount of experience doing this. We actually at HeartCert created this when the pandemic started, and have been shipping out our own kits, very, very similar to WorldPoint. So I've got some direct experience to kind of tell people what it's like, at least in my experience. So
I love that.
Obviously doing it over, whether it's Zoom or Google Meets, whatever, right? You pick one. Doing it virtually that way is a heck of a lot different than in person. Even just the communicating, like you try to talk over people, it takes some getting used to. So I would, encourage people to maybe practice that with even just family, like a family Zoom night or whatever, and do a practice class, just like you did before in person. It's like relearning how to do it, and keeping classes small to begin with. You can still let, however many into a Zoom session you want, but then being able to, okay, how do I make the screen big so I can see this person? And is there feedback? And, depending on who I'm using, whether it's AHA, ARC, whoever, am I following all the different rules and stipulations? So what's really nice, at first I didn't know exactly how to feel about it, because I've made these kits, I've been doing it, right? And it's like, well, now there's a super easy way to do it from WorldPoint. Do I keep doing my own thing or use WorldPoint? I haven't made that decision from a business aspect yet, but I can tell you this. For all these other CPR trainers out there, this is a great solution. It really is. It's priced actually pretty well. So I actually have one right here. The mannequins, you can see it that WorldPoint uses. They're these mini Annies. Okay.
Yeah.
You can find the pricing. Like if you want to buy a 10-pack, I think it's just over $600, right? So, I mean, if you're looking at one mannequin, that's $60. Do you ship it and have it returned? Do you this, that? There's all those logistics, but you've got the option now where you can get it from WorldPoint and ship it and forget it, and that's it. And it's just a new way to do it. Maybe you've got certain corporate clients in one area and they've said, hey, well, we're also across the country. And you're like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do that at that branch or this or that. Maybe I'll contract out. Now you can do it. Like this is an avenue where you can do it, but you're going to have to, one, ship out the kit, and I'll show you what these look like. Two, you got to figure out how the blended learning is going to look, right? Depending on which organization you're using, they've got to do that. And now you've got the whole Zoom in person, and it's just like a blended learning, just like that, only you're doing it over Zoom.
So what I'm hearing you say is you use Zoom as your operation side of things for the video.
We do. We
Okay.
do. Yep. I've tried Google Meets. There's also a thing called Blue Jeans, which I had never heard of, but it's actually really good. If you
Wow,
look at
you're like cutting edge over there, man. I haven't even heard of Blue Jeans.
no, nobody has. But it's actually really good.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll check them out.
there's ways to do it, but
Blue
I
Jeans.
think people might like to see what these mannequins are like because that's
Could you pull it out?
yeah, yeah. So what's cool is so it ships really nice flat, and then it looks cheap. It sure does, but it's actually higher quality than you think. So it comes out like this. You can unfold it. It's got its own lung thing, right? KMS. This looks kind of like a little chintzy, but once you blow it up, it actually looks pretty decent and legit. Now it doesn't have like visual feedback. Okay, so that's why with the AHA and WorldPoint, they say you need to use that app or whatever method you're going to use. There's wristwatches. Somehow, if that's the requirement for what you're doing, you want to make sure you do that. But it does have, believe it or not, you wouldn't think it to look at this, the audio feedback for when they're going deep enough.
Okay.
So that's actually kind of cool, and I wasn't expecting it when I first did this. The breasts do go in, the chest does rise, and to blow it up, because this was a concern of mine, was especially during COVID, right? I did this height of COVID. Putting your mouth on anything, nobody wants to do. Okay. But the bag that it comes in and with, it will actually, you can roll it up and you stick it on the end of the mannequin, and the air from the bag blows up the mannequin. So they don't have to put their mouth on it.
Oh, that's cool.
It is actually pretty cool. I thought
I
thought that was neat. You sure can take your mouth or send a pump, but yep, the bag itself, it's got instructions. A little wonky the first time you do it, but you know, by and large, especially for the pricing and everything,
Yeah,
it's a good thing. And now
that's awesome.
the AEDs are kind of another animal. People have their opinions, and I agree with it. Okay, so these are the AEDs. It's plastic. It doesn't turn on, right? But it does have pads and actual pads that you can stick, like we always should. Okay. It meets the standards and requirements, but is it the best? No, I mean, we would all like something to turn on, but you can use a device, something else on your end, or simulate. But that's what these look like in those kits.
I wonder if we could download, or not even download an app, but maybe like send them to a website that has an AED that you can turn on and then kind of go through a simulation.
Yep, I think there are those as well as apps. So
Cool.
Just be aware. Yep, and it's the same people who roll their eyes and say, "Well, I'm not going to do that." But again, if that person, would you rather have them not certified and no training at all, or go through training like this? I'd rather have them have something.
And guess what? If this is the avenue that they're trying to go, which is virtual, they're going to find it from someone. Why not you, right? And so if you feel like, hey, they're going to get a disservice, guess what? You can go above and beyond and make sure they have an excellent service, and you just roll out the red carpet for them, and you can really show them everything you really want to show them.
That is a fantastic point, Kirk. And I think that's one thing that people don't necessarily realize or think about. They get it in their head and they think virtual, and they see this stuff and they're like, that's not as good as the stuff I'm using. I'm out. This is a service. You can. There are so many ways to make this a really, really good training. It's a different format. Okay. So you got to change your mind, but there are ways to do it, and you certainly can.
Hey, if you are a CPR instructor listening in right now, do me a huge favor and hit that share button in your screen, whether you're watching from YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. I guarantee you there's another CPR instructor in your network that needs to hear what we're talking about today. So do me that huge favor. We're trying to get the word out. We're trying to answer your questions and help you grow your business. So next question, will this minimize or hurts in-class training or make that completely go away potentially?
Yeah, I mean, that remains to be seen, but I don't think, as we've seen and talked about the history of it, I don't think in-person, in-class training is going away ever. Even when you talk RQI and all this other stuff and automation.
Hold on a second. RQI, for those who haven't heard that acronym.
Yep. So the RQI is what they've been using in healthcare for, do you know how long, Kirk? A couple of years,
man.
at least.
I don't have that exact data
But
memorized.
it's essentially like a way where healthcare providers can go in to a room and do all the CPR. They've done the blended, and it's kind of all automated more or less. And they do
Okay.
it instead of every 2 years, they're doing it on a more frequent basis. So I mean, there are steps towards change. Those take a long time to completely change, and there are some things that just aren't going to go away. And I think the in-person training is always going to be some of that. So no, like we talked about earlier, in my opinion, I don't think you'll see this hurt in-person numbers. I really don't. The people who want in-person are going to seek this out. The people who don't are going to seek out, other options. And I don't think you're going to see a large exodus or anything like that.
Yeah. And RQI, resuscitation quality improvement. That was the
Yes, that's right.
acronym.
Yes. Yep, thank you.
Yeah. No, I know that, whenever I hear people throw out acronyms, it's like, okay, which industry are we
Which one
talking
is
about? What are we talking about
yeah.
here? So a question I've been getting a lot recently is capability statements. Do you deal with capability statements at all on your side of things?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Capability statements go a lot with a lot of other kind of business basics, I would maybe call it.
Sure.
Mission statements and things like that. You know, every business, every industry, and heck, every region is different. And yet, depending on your
Mhm.
clients, you may really need, want, and push these out there, or maybe not so much. You got them in your back pocket, but you should definitely have this kind of stuff. And I know you've taken tons of classes and everything. So yeah, from what I understand of a capability statement is it's a bit longer than say a mission statement or anything like that. It's more of a highlight, like a one page. But give us your expertise, Kirk. I want to know.
So, and again, here's an example
Boom.
on the screen. Boom. This is something that I created for my company personally. And hey, listen, if you are interested in, getting this as a PDF, and feel free to copy it. Like, I don't care. Like, if you want it, the specific PDF, I'll send it to you. I just put it in the chat box here. The link. This is the link where you ask questions for the show. But you can also, end the question to say, hey, send me your capability statement or whatever, and then I'll send it to you. But look, every capability statement is a little bit different. A lot of capability statements have, similar facets, right? They should all have your core competencies, the things that your differentiators, right? The things that make you different from your competition. Maybe your past performance, company data, contact information is the most is very important. And what I would say is the most important thing is the call to action. And as you can see on the very bottom, I say, hey, this isn't a perfect call to action or the best, or I'm sure someone else can come up with a better one, right? But email us today for your new Rescue Site AED program. The reason I put your new is I'm giving ownership to the reader here, future ownership of their new AED program. And so that's why I worded it that way. You can see up in the middle of the screen here is, the big problem that we're solving globally. 17,900,000 people die from cardiovascular disease every year. Okay. That's the problem. Okay. How are we solving it? Well, we've talked about our core competencies, company overview, and whatnot. Now, if you are, I'm not pursuing government contracts. Tim, do you do government stuff?
Not a lot, no. But we do. We put in some requests for proposals, RFPs, and things like
Sure.
that for different agencies. And I was going to say that this is a great thing to include with stuff like that or large corporate accounts. But I was curious, when and where and how do you use this kind of information?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I literally just got the request for the first time in like 6 years, like a month ago, and so that's where we created this document right here. And
Very
so,
cool.
yeah, like I haven't really used it a whole lot. I do a very similar thing in my proposals. So
Right.
when every lead gets a proposal, and by the way, I would highly recommend that you make that a standard practice as well, because if you don't ask for the sell, guess what? You're never going to get the sell. And people think that sell, the S word, is a bad word, but hey, listen, if you have a vision that's so big, creating a world where no one dies from sudden cardiac arrest, you have to be passionate about what you're doing, and what you're doing is teaching people how to save lives through CPR training.
Yeah, and when
And
you get these inquiries, now you've got lots of different options, right? What we talked about
exactly,
before. Hey, if they're not going to go for the in-person, why not? Well, here's some other options. Here's some other options.
dude, people don't buy because they don't like, the price or the whatever, but really it comes down to options. And so if you can say, hey, look, we have options from, $50 to $2,000 or whatever, anywhere in between. You're like, let me ask you this. And you go into your first fact finding question. And this is all part of your sales process and, whatnot. So make sure you have a set of questions that you ask, because what that fact finding question does is it allows you to figure out exactly how you can best service your clients. And that's your job as the business owner, is to best service your client. And so as a CPR instructor, we want every single person you come in contact with to get training from you.
Yep.
And so whether it's virtual, in person, blended, and guess what? The next step beyond that is you teach them how to use that defibrillator. You need to be able to service them when they ask you, hey, Kirk, hey, Tim, you just taught me how to use this thing called a defibrillator. Where can I get one? Do you want to shrug your shoulders and say, I don't know, Google it? Or do you want to be able to say, hey, yes, go to my store on my website and pick out the one you want, or hey, this is the one I have, which, by the way, every single person on this call should have a defibrillator. If you're a CPR instructor, it's only a matter of time. I think it's over 50% of the time, and Tim, you might have different numbers, but in my experience, over 50% of the time of classes that I go teach on site, they do not have a defibrillator. Yeah, I mean, what's your experience?
Yeah, my experience, you can look at numbers a lot of different ways, but I would agree. There is a large amount of clients who you would think would have one, or most certainly should have one.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing them a disservice, as well as the community, if you're not at the very least proposing something to them. Like you said, why wouldn't you want it to come through your company? But
yeah,
we want to be getting those out there.
And one of the biggest things to my point on defibrillators is how awful would it be for you to be the professional to show up to teach people how to save lives, and it's only a matter of time for someone to have a heart attack in your class or on site during your class. And so how awful would that be for you to be the person that knows how to do it but doesn't have the resources to do it, right, which is that defibrillator. And so I encourage every single CPR instructor to always bring a live defibrillator to your class. It does one of two things. One, liability, for you. Number two, it shows them that you're committed to your profession, and to the point where you purchase one for your house, your home, your car, your business, your office, and you care enough about your client that you have one, even if they don't have one. But guess what? My favorite part is when you get to the defibrillator portion of the training, you get to say, turn to your point of contact and say, hey, go get your defibrillator. I want to show you how to use what you have. And one of two things is going to happen. They're going to say, okay, cool, be right back, because they have one. Great, awesome. But number two, they might say, we don't have one. And then you get to look at them and you're like, what do you mean you don't have one? How are you going to use CPR training if you don't have the resources? And then also their light bulb goes off and you're like, hey, it's okay. For today, we're going to use my live defibrillator that I brought. And then I will send you a link to purchase your new defibrillator at the end of class. Right. And that is literally all you got to say. And guess what? 100% of the time, you're going to be selling at least one person out of the 12 or however many people are in that group, because every person in that group has a house that they live in. And I guarantee they probably have a neighborhood pool that doesn't have one. And so there's so many opportunities. And guess what? I love to do a free CPR training for you at the neighborhood pool. And then you do the class as if you're training them, certifying them, but you only get them a certification if they pay. And then at the end of the class, you're like, dude, I would love to have that certification. Awesome. Sign right here and pay right here. And then boom, that's a simple way and that's off of one class. Imagine if you did that with every single class you did.
Yep.
I mean, powerful.
A lot of ways to grow.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So, look, this industry is not going away. Workplace safety training is not going away. It's only getting bigger. It's a multi-billion-dollar. I think last I saw was like $6 billion for workplace safety training, and that number is only going to increase, especially with inflation. So
I
make
agree.
sure,
It's keep
yeah,
growing for sure, but it's going to also keep evolving, and you got to evolve
yes,
with it.
yes. So a company that doesn't change is a company that's not going to be in business very long. So you have to be willing to change fast. I mean, speed to markets, that is the biggest thing. That is by far, hey, you have an idea, and how long it takes that idea to become a reality. The company that has the shortest amount of time from idea to reality is going to be the company that wins.
Action.
100%. I love that. Tim, is there any other topics that we want to, discuss?
There is, but I think we've hit our 30-minute mark, and
Yeah.
I mean, we every week or every month, just always so much to talk about. I love it. But if people have got questions on this virtual thing, I'm sure more is going to hash out over time. But I look forward to our next discussion. It's just so much to go through.
And next discussion will be May 4th. That is the first Wednesday of May. So we do this the first Wednesday of every single month. And we're looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday. But until then, do me a favor and hit that link in the chat. That link is going to take you to a form. And that form is where you can put in your information for your questions that you have specifically that we can answer for you. So listen, it's been a great episode, a great live. Looking forward to next month. Tim, great to have you again. And yeah, get you one of these Annie Mannies. Is that what it's called?
Mini Annie. Yep.
Mini Annie. Annie Manny, whatever.
Mini Annie.
Mini Annie.
That's what they're using, and there's a couple different options. So check it out. It's just another new way. Kirk, it's always a pleasure, always fun. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's an honor.
Absolutely, brother. See you next month.
See you next month.